Johnson. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Eric. How are you?
Not too bad. I'm glad we finally got the chance to do this because we've been toing and froing for about a year. We met on social, right? We met, I guess, did we meet through Crux Cast?
Yeah, I caught that early on, and then thought this is something a little bit different. This is something new. This is something getting past the business suit, past the office, and into the people. And for me, business is all about people. So I've been a fan from day one and followed it and supported it as much as possible. And you've had great people on, and I'm delighted that you've invited me on.
Oh, fantastic! Oh, absolutely. You absolutely hit the sweet spot because we're going to unpack this personality and this life story as we go on. But thank you for your support on that. I guess when we started this off, it was like, is anybody going to pay attention? And then good people like you popped up and said, this is quite nice. I quite enjoyed this. Thanks very much for asking some questions. So it just absolutely helps. Now, if anyone goes onto your LinkedIn profile, which of course we will publicize at the top of this piece, they will notice that you broadcast to the world that you are, or you show to the world that you're an independent production chemist. The company's ProdChem, right? Now, for those who maybe are listening to this that aren't in the industry or have never really been associated with anything to do with this, what does a production chemist do?
Generally, upstream production chemistry, it's a little bit different than drilling chemicals and muds and that, but it's very much chemicals to help safely and efficiently produce oil and gas from onshore, offshore, and anywhere. Essentially, we're the voice of the people. But if people want to know a little bit more, I had a day in the life of article published with through Ken Dooley and OGV magazine. So if people just want to Google OGV magazine chemist, they'll come across the article and they'll be able to read a little bit more in depth of what I do. But essentially, as I say, it's a technical discipline in the oil and gas industry, quite a critical one, covers reservoir to refineries and often forgotten, but never once people end up in the doo-doo. So.
never once people end up in the doo-doo. So is it fair to say, given the fact that you and I have got similar kind of follicles and salt and pepper facial hair, that you've been doing it for a wee while?
Yeah. I did chemistry at university and had 3 years there doing research into cement, and then moved pretty much into oil and gas on the chemical side of things. Had a little bit of an excursion in the middle part of my career into process solutions, so process equipment and water treatment, but very much if that's what you do and that's what you're good at, you kind of stick with it and develop your specialism. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, quite right. We're gonna come back to that and sort of finish off with that, but let's, if you will, the form, let's go back to where it all started. Where did you grow up?
Grew up in southeast London, born, bred and disillusioned down there, so very much there. Most vivid memories come around the South Norwood, Norbury, Thornton Heath area, so that part of it. Went to school there. Quite a difficult time. There was obviously late 70s, early 80s, a lot of problems in that area, adjacent to where we were living, and but very, very thankful of living in a multicultural environment. The neighbour was from Ceylon. We had classmates that were of all ethnicity and all grades, good, bad, and ugly. Just from posh people to people you stay well clear of. So,
yes.
and couple the schooling with swimming and that lot, you get to meet a broader church of people in your youth. Yeah.
So sport and swim. So swimming came out at school.
I learned to swim quite late, about 8 or 9. Wasn't one of the water babies, and then just got the bug. Wasn't really a school thing. The school didn't understand it. Why don't you play basketball? Why don't you play rugby? Well, every time I hurt a shoulder on Sunday afternoon on the rugby pitch, I can't be in the pool at 6 o'clock on Monday morning. So very much local swimming clubs, got to quite a decent level. Represented Scotland at 3 different levels, and youth, university, and senior level, and had a good career of it up until you would go to university. But that was a time when sort of sport was very much a cost to you. There was no lottery funding. There was no centre for excellences like we have in Scotland at Stirling and here up at the Aberdeen Village. So so you do that for a bit. You
how do you explain this to us? Born and growing up in South Norwood, but end up representing Scotland. How does that link work?
Scottish parents.
Scottish parents.
Who's the most famous Scottish family you know?
Hannah Miley.
Right. Okay. That's
the first one that just came to mind because we used to sponsor her at Exodus Group.
Yes. I remember that. She drove around in a wee blue polo, and
that's right. Yes.
And the senior guys used to push that, and it was quite good. They really did well with it. But going back, David Wilkie, where was David Wilkie born? He was born in Sri Lanka, Ceylon at the time.
Right.
Where was Robbie Rennick? Do you know Robbie Rennick?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where was he born? He was born in Abu Dhabi. So Scottish parents. They came from southwest Scotland, Lockerbie area, and that still moved back down there. But work took my dad down to southeast London. So
right, I see. Okay. Jockney. You're a Jockney through and through. I love it. It. So academically, was school pleasant for you? Was school easy, difficult? You know, no bother, whatever. Were you tuned in? Were you at school at the right time in your life? Because so many of us weren't, I think.
Kind of the work ethic that you develop from your family and the norms and values that you grow up around, and that always emphasise schooling and an opportunity. I'm a twin, so there's a natural competitiveness in the household there already. So always looking to do your best both in the school and in the pool. That was my tagline. So yeah.
So swimming, as you say,
it was never sort of 5 A's in hires and all that kind of stuff. Got enough to get into university. Got enough in university to sort of enjoy it at the time and move forward and get myself a reasonable education and then educating myself today. So lifelong learning. I'm a great supporter of that.
Quite right too. No doubt. Did the chemistry thing did that start to shine through at school, or was that a sort of...
That was very much at school. It was always going to be a science-based thing. So chemistry was one of the choices, and sort of never really fancied engineering. So chemistry was there. Went to Aberdeen because I finished my schooling in Stirling.
Right.
And at the time, there was only 8 universities in Scotland, where there's probably 28 now.
Yeah.
And didn't want to go to Stirling, obviously. The 2 Glasgow ones, so Strathclyde, Glasgow, and the 2 Edinburgh ones, Heriot Watt and Edinburgh, obviously, they were within a certain distance, so you weren't guaranteed halls of residence. St Andrews too posh, didn't fancy Dundee, armpit of Scotland. Sorry, mate. And then ended up in Aberdeen.
So that was one question I was going to ask. Was Aberdeen strategic, or did it just work out that way? And it seems as if it just worked out that way, right?
It was just a place to go. I've been up to Aberdeen for a couple of times because, again, at the time there wasn't any quality swimming locations, so they used to stick a boom in the Bonnacle baths to make it 25 metres, and you turn up and do the Scottish short course swimming. So you kind of knew a bit about Aberdeen and the city, and I did a little bit of research, but a little bit more than my brother Charles, because my brother Charles just chose Strathclyde because he wanted to join the swim team. So
is that right?
So yeah, that was at the time. You're of an age as well that the academic pressures were not heaped on people as they are these days. So your choices and your options were whilst they weren't huge, you had a little bit of flexibility, and then obviously being at a time when there was grants and the cost of it wasn't huge or put people off and that lot. I worked every summer and saved up enough money to see me through every year. So that was it. So
you get your degree. Was it straight into work?
Straight into work at the university. I did a research position there for 3 years on cement, looking at how cement protects steel reinforcement, and how over time there's a decay and corrosion or whatever. So we were doing a bit of that, and then folded over into a bit of oil field cement, and then thought, well, if you're up here, I kind of like Aberdeen. There was I'd got into a relationship at the time, and then that was based in Aberdeen. So you thought, well, right. So obviously looking to fall into the oil and gas industry. So working in chemicals was pretty much a design.
Yeah, an easy, yeah, absolutely. And I guess you probably, I'm just guessing from this, you probably spent a bit of time offshore.
I had two years offshore on fixed rotation, offshore with Amoco in Holland.
Wow.
So we used to sing Going Loco offshore with Amoco. So so that was that. But it's good experience, and I'm a great believer you've got to get boots on the ground.
Yeah.
Before that, I spent a bit of time in Norway, so supported stuff with that. You have to kind of spend some time, and then after that, very much doing, while still in a service role, and even later in my career revisiting service roles and that lot, a good bit of time in the field, whether it's offshore, onshore, shale production in Estonia, Middle East, India, anywhere. Yeah.
So you've travelled the world kind of extensively, right, through your occupation.
Yeah. Mostly places where I kind of wanted to go to. Never had any great ambition to go and visit some of the places where sort of the overseas bonus was a little bit enhanced, so it's danger money.
Danger money.
But quite happy to go and see a bit of the world. Never really one of those to say I'll stay an extra week and go and do the travelling and that lot. Do the work. Thank you very much. Come back home. And then enjoy your time here. Northeast of Scotland is a fantastic place to live and work, bring up kids or whatever, and really don't fancy living on compounds or third world places like Houston or somewhere like that. So.
For anyone who missed what you said there, it's worth rewinding just to hear what you said. So what places that you visited through work, because I know that you've put up some content on social about your travels around the world. What places had an impact on you that for whatever reason, what place stands out?
Difficult to say. Offshore's always good, and particularly if you're out there with a crew doing a job, because teamwork, camaraderie, band of brothers, whatever words you want to use to describe that environment, get the job done, and away you go. But in terms of sort of opening my eyes to stuff, India, and not the kind of I'll go to Delhi and do that and off to Mumbai or whatever. It was flying to Delhi, land late at night, wake up, get a flight out to Jodhpur, 4 or 5 hour drive out to the field, and you're in a place called Barma in Rajasthan, rural India, and you just have to appreciate what you've got and how lucky you are. Because there's billions of people out there on the planet who don't have anything.
I know.
But they're not miserable. They're not happy. They're always polite, and whilst you don't make any lifelong friends with people out there, they do leave an imprint in your soul and in your heart because of the way they treat you and the way you treat them.
Oh, that's such a nice way to put it, and I can empathise with that. I remember travelling in the oil field you're right, if you're in the oil field and you're travelling and you might be going with a crew or you might be going yourself. I did a lot with a crew, and I did a lot myself later on when I got into management roles. So I ended up in strange countries at strange times of the day. Yeah. I remember arriving in Gabon, flying from Libreville to Port-Gentil, which is just basically up and down. I think it just barely gets into second gear on the plane, and then we're coming down again. I landed at Port-Gentil. We walked out, and the guy had Mr. Doyle, and he said, "My name's whatever," and I said, "Hello, pleased to meet you." And he chucked me a set of car keys and said, "Follow me. That's your car." And it's the dead of night with no streetlights, nothing, in Bedlam roads and chaos. And I said, "Well, I'll tell you what, I'll just come with you." And he went, "No room. That's your car. Follow me." And he's off. He's away. Oh my God.
we used to have drivers who pick us up from Jodhpur and take us to there, and you do the whole safety thing. So you get the boy's name, you get his registration plate, and a pickup, and you never offer your name and that lot. We were fortunate in I worked for some big companies and they took it seriously. So we had a couple of days in Frankfurt where we had Danish ex-military telling us how to sort ourselves out in terms of being safe or whatever, and up to and including sort of being able to drag an 8-stone French woman being able to drag out an 18-stone 6'4" guy out of a car, just in case, because if that car's on fire, you've got to get that guy out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
And in India, we had a driver assigned to us for the whole 2 weeks or however long we were down there and that lot. And you just develop a relationship with them. They're not going to be an integral part of your life, but as your world turns and as their world turns, when you contact them, if you don't make it the most positive interaction that you possibly can, fuck you.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, you and I, I'm guessing you've probably seen the exact demonstration of that. The people that don't make it a very positive experience, and it's just horrific.
No time for those people.
No time for those people. Yeah, exactly. Just get out of town. So you travel the world. Everything's going well. You're doing exciting stuff. What particular part of once you did chemistry and you get into production chemistry, did you get to a certain point where you thought, there's a part of this that I really like? There's a part of this there's a specific element of this that I really want to tug a thread on?
Yeah. And it's like most organizations, the technical ladder stops very, very low in the organizations, and particularly in big organizations. If you want to get further up, then you've got to get in, and I'm not saying play the political game, but you've got to do the sales and BD kind of stuff or whatever. And my jam has always been sort of, I'll go in, I'll look at something, I'll see that it's maybe not right, and I'll help people fix it. And if I have to bring new technology to that, or if I have to sort of sit there and pour through years and years of data to work out the condition of that pipeline, so that we can run a full debris assessment of that pipeline, so that the inline inspection guys can run their tool. That's what you do. It's never about I'll just look after the chemicals or whatever, because the chemicals are an integral part of the process.
Right.
And the technical side of things and fixing stuff and helping stuff sort out, which is why, in addition to the production chemistry side of things, I've got some asset management, I've got some lead auditor qualifications. So actually going in there, working out what the hell's happening here, and putting in systems, plans, programs, strategies, or whatever to help people fix it.
As you say, rather than just going in and going, I only do chemicals, that's it. Yeah.
I don't consider myself anybody special. I'm good at what I do, but it always staggers me that I leave places a lot better positioned to produce oil and gas than when I turned up to them. I'm like, how the hell does that happen?
Yeah. Anybody along the time in oil and gas, and I'm just pulling from my own experience of people. Anyone that you met along the way that had a real positive impact on you and sticks with you as to that was a special person.
There's a few people who I've worked with in the field,
yeah,
who I felt really sort of had the right thinking and aligned in the thinking as well. A couple of managers who, if I thought, if I hang on to their coattails for a bit, I could learn an awful lot about running companies and running organizations. But if that's not the path that needs to be sort of developed, then there's a reason I'm an independent production chemist, for a reason, because I'll join teams, I'll get up to speed very quickly, and I'll start contributing.
Yeah, absolutely. You've been around the patch for a long while. Do you think there's still, well, clearly we need new blood coming into the industry, but what would your advice be to new engineers, new technical people coming into the industry at this stage, or even thinking about, is it worth going into oil and gas at this point?
It's definitely worth going into oil and gas. Mm-hmm. You look at companies like Equinor who are sort of marketing themselves as the greenest of green oil companies and that, and they just started up Johan Sverdrup last year in Norway with a 50-year life of field. Now that will sort anybody out coming into the industry. I think the industry has to stay really relevant. I'm not going to get into sort of bashing green energy or what the hell's hydrogen all about or all this kind of stuff. But the difficulty I see is that industry leaders need to support the industry, and I genuinely think that there's quite a swift and quite a soft exit from sort of industry leading organisations and people who are just saying, well, oil and gas, that's gone, I'm off to something new, because the nebula promise of tomorrow is always better for these people than dealing with the harsh realities of today.
Yeah. So you think there's a few examples? I mean, we don't need to go into it, but there's a few examples of jumping ship and turning their back on an industry that supported them for years.
Aberdeen in the 70s and 80s was a global centre for offshore technology, and in the 90s and 2000s, it's a global centre for subsea technology. So it does transition. It needs to work out where it needs to go to now.
Yeah. Do you think there's enough focus on working out where it needs to go to now?
Oh, absolutely not.
No.
And I'm not advocating that we push ahead with uneconomic or things that are unsustainable or not able to do. But there's lots of things that can be done if people want to sort of look at it for a long-term investment. But the industry's changed. US shale has shown that people can make a quick buck out of the industry, and that has infected, poisoned, and polluted the oil and gas industry, as far as I think, on a global basis. Plus you've got national oil companies who are sufficiently sort of capable that they don't need international oil companies to help help them. So there's a level of self-sufficiency there that doesn't need support. I think there still needs to support. The supply chain has been sort of hammered for a decade or so. There's little or no innovation coming out, and we have discussed this privately in the past. So it would be a bit unfair to comment on it in this thing, because we won't be giving people the right of reply. But
correct. Yeah.
But again, oil companies are not innovating. The major service companies are not innovation. They're just all protecting their dividends. So where's the innovation coming from? And the small and medium-sized enterprises are just left hanging there
and treading water.
Yep.
So what is your worry if we don't get our act together?
That we're going to lose a generation of highly skilled people in the oil and gas industry. It's not just a gradual decline. A lot of people say, well, we can manage the decline, particularly in the North Sea. You can't. You absolutely can't, because there's a tipping point in terms of pipeline infrastructure and the midstream stuff. That once you get below certain volumes and certain flow rates, the whole thing is uneconomic, unviable, and technically you can't shove product down the line. So yeah, I don't know if I knew the answer, I might sort of do it. I'm a great believer in that assets can be run much better, old assets, new assets as well, because there's tens, sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars just frittered away on people not doing stuff properly, and how you think you can run a complex oil and gas facility on 80 to 100 disconnected spreadsheets that don't talk to each other, and people not turning up for meetings and pushing things forward and just saying, right, oh, Bill's not here, right, we'll pick that up next meeting and that lot.
It's not going to work.
How you do it. You look at other industries that have integrated supply chains and integrated integrated a whole community of an industry. You look at automotive and you look at aerospace. I get a direct visibility on that because my twin brother used to work in aerospace and now works in automotive.
Right.
And when your roof bar designer gets the drawings from the body structure itself, so the roof bar becomes a structural element of the roof, and the roof becomes a structural element of the roof bar, that's when real integration turns up.
Yeah.
The difficulty we have now is that everything is modular, so everybody's got their little bit to do, and we don't have skilled enough or clever enough system integrators to knit it all together. So even when you get brand new FPSOs sailing out of Singapore coming into the North Sea, we've got a punch list that's this long of stuff that isn't working.
Yeah.
And your engineering community, from day one, is trying to fix stuff while you're trying to produce
on the hoof. If you could, I mean, ridiculous question, and I know you're an engineer, and I know
I'm a chemist.
You're a chemist, you're not. I know you're an engineer. I know you're a scientist, right? So, silly question. If I could give you like Paddy on the show with all the people lined up, the power into your hands, give you a megaphone to give you industry oversight and a bit of a budget, what would you attack first to try and write all of this and fix it? What would you go after first?
You have to look at this through two lenses. One, a medical lens.
Right.
So you've got to recognise that there are patients out there that need triage.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
And the second one, you've got to look at it as a military thing. I'm a great believer in asset management. There's an ISO standard that you could sign up to, 55001. I'm a lead auditor of that. And the industry says, well, we need to learn from other people. So they look at aerospace, they look at automotive. Automotive's a different thing. Do you think Volkswagen build a unique car for every single car that's out there? No, but we do because we have to.
Yeah.
If you want to look at asset management, look at the US military. Look at the US Navy. You want to talk about complex offshore assets? USS Nimitz, built 1974, nuclear-powered, offensive systems, defensive systems, 5,000 people on board, 20,000 meals a day. Half the world wants to find out where it is, so it has to sneak around. Mm-hmm. And to use the naval aviator vernacular, 80 to 100 controlled crashes on the deck every day.
80 to 100 controlled crashes, yeah. You
want to learn how to run your oil and gas asset? Go and speak to people who understand how to run US aircraft carriers or any other. We know how to do it. People I know how to do it. We've got a system in place. We've got a digital system in place that can go, but it's change.
It's change, yeah.
And people don't like change.
No,
because those who are left are the ones who have benefited from the status quo.
I've often felt that from my time, I stepped into the oil and gas industry in 1990, and in 1990 I started working offshore in 1990, and I saw leaflets, I read magazines at heliports and all that, and I heard about industry standardization in 1990. Standardization across the industry. We're all trying to do the same thing, even though we're all commercially separate, but we're all trying to have the same standards. I kind of left my last management role in oil and gas, still hearing about the ambition to become a standardized industry. and just wonder, and just, I know there's probably people reeling up in arms saying there has been a lot of standardization. I guess for average Joe Soap like me, you just wonder where it went, where the standardization efforts went, and did they really focus on the areas that could have made us more profitable and more sustainable today?
I agree with you on that one, Eric. There's been contracts awarded I remember spending a year in Norway, and I saw $1 billion worth of contracts awarded by both combined Statoil at the time and Phillips at the time, because they wanted to standardize on subsea trees. And the difficulty is that you get sort of people think, oh, standardization, that means there's only going to be one vendor. No, there isn't. One of the fundamental things that I challenge people on oil and gas is that oil and gas is not a competitive industry. If BP can produce oil 20% cheaper from one field than Shell produces from an adjacent field, other oil companies are available. Yeah, doesn't put Shell out of business. Whereas if you're in automotive or if you're in airlines, a 20% difference in performance.
Yeah, you're stuffed.
You're stuffed. So no competition, no desire to move to do things better, no desire to improve your current lot means no innovation, and no innovation means that your industry stands still because you've gone after I wouldn't say any oil's easy, but you've gone after the less difficult oil, and now the challenge has come.
Yeah.
So you have to start looking at other things on how to do it, and if you've got oil fields out there that have essentially still got 60% of the oil in the ground, why not look at things to do that? The last technical stuff that I was involved in a few years back was polymer EOR. Shoving more oil out of the reservoir, steam flooding in the Middle East. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. If people want an analogy, I'll give them an analogy. You don't walk up to the bar, order 3 pints, drink 1 pint, shove 2 back, and then order another 3, and then drink 1, and then shove 2 back. But that's what we do with oil and gas fields. Now, we may not be able to drink all the 3 pints, but we can certainly drink more than 1.
Mm.
So look at enhanced oil recovery. The difficulty is that those things need to be thought out from day one. You're not going to spend the money on day one because it's something you're going to do further down the line with asset life extension and all that kind of stuff. But at least have a think about it, and not just think, right, my FPSO is going to go in there. I'll soak out of that reservoir for 6, 8, 10 years. Hopefully, I won't trash the FPSO too much. It'll go back in for a refit and come out somewhere else. But if you're going to do that, then at least do that properly and have something fit for purpose coming out of the yard first thing.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. So ultimately, what we're looking for is, I mean, this is
something more interesting.
No, I love it. I could get lost in this for hours. I think it's wonderful hearing you wax lyrical about this. And what I would really love to come out of this is that someone who's in a position that can actually say, right, come on, get you on a Zoom call and have this kind of conversation with the industry stalwarts, because I think that's what it's going to need. I
think so. I think in the past there have been people who have led change, and we need people who are willing to do it again.
Yeah, outstanding. Hey, we didn't really get to the swimming because it took a bit of a serious tone there, but I think that was a good thing. It's good to see that you're back into swimming though. But
the swimming side of things, swimming and sport is relevant. It's hard. Yep. If you want success, you've got to put the work in. You've got to have a reasonable skill set for you to be successful, and you've got to keep at it, and you've got to be continually improving. The reason why I was successful in my swimming career at the time was because we were just getting into some of the stuff that was needed there. So we were doing lactate testing on people. So in order to find your base lactate level, you used to have to swim continuously for 45 minutes.
Oy.
And that gets you to the level, and then people work out because some people overtrained, some people undertrained, or whatever. Now it's all got to something better because the science of sport has changed.
Yeah.
Whether it's swimming or whether it's golf or whether it's technology or whether it's understanding or whatever.
So you're making that parallel.
Yeah. Because not so much swimming, because but there's stuff you can control, but there's stuff that you can't control. Same on a golf as well. Golf's an imperfect game. Always will be. Always has been. Always will be. There's stuff that you've got to accept, but there's stuff that you can do. Yeah. But it takes a bit of dedication, resilience, and saying the level I'm at today is not good enough for the future, because everything's moving on. And if oil and gas wants to remain a relevant part of the energy mix, which it will be, and it needs to be, and it needs to hang in there until these other technologies become mature, because there's some fundamental issues in terms of greener energy and hydrogen and all that need to be addressed. I'm not saying that they can't be addressed, but they need to be addressed by companies that are willing to invest in it. And the money has to come from somewhere, and the energy and the horsepower has to come from somewhere, and the individuals who are going to be changing stuff need to come from somewhere.
Correct.
If you want to change oil and gas, don't sit on the sidelines saying, "Oh, oil and gas, boo, we need to change." Get in there, go and join an organisation, because you can much better change it from the inside than you can from the outside.
I think that's a fitting point to leave it there for today. It's you can much better change it from the inside rather than just chuck in rotten tomatoes from the outside.
Yep.
Get in there, show some confidence, show some support, roll your sleeves up, and get after it. But also recognise that there's a cohort of people out there in the industry who are specialists in their area and have a contribution to be made. Yeah, big time.
Because often you find a lot of people at the top of organisations, rightly or wrongly, think that they've got the monopoly on all the wisdom. And until you get a team of specialists working out what is possible and what is probable, you have to do it. We all know what the end goal is. That's desirable.
Yeah.
But look at feasibility. Because anytime somebody talks to me about something that looks quite difficult, my first question is, well, how the bloody hell are we going to do that? Oh, you're being negative. No, I'm not being negative. I'm being realistic.
Yeah.
Because if we need to sit down and work out stuff that we need to do, we need to do it.
Yep.
And if it's standardization, if it's specification, and if it's rolling your sleeves up, if it's the application of digital technology, if it's this, that, and the next thing, it has to be done properly. Yep. But you've got to simplify things, you've got to standardize things, and then you can only digitize it. If you start digitizing everything, then all you create is 10 times the amount of white noise on the data that you should be interrogating properly, and you minimize your chances of seeing issues that ultimately will blow up in your face. Well
put. Listen, let's make a date to pick up beyond the summertime in this year, and we'll come back and revisit and see where we are, and hopefully someone picks up on this and gives you a call and invites you into some forum where people who can make a difference can actually tune into some of this and get you and other people enabled to help make this change. James, it's been a pleasure to hook up with you. Thank you for coming with us on a Sunday. Very nice of you.
It's all right. It's all right. Every day's kind of merged into one these days as well.
Totally. Tell me about it. Thank you so much, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Yeah, and thanks very much for all the Crux Cast, because you've cast your net wide. You've spoken to a heap of people who I know, and I've developed relationships with now. So and I had relationships with them beforehand. Seeing that you go after the same people that I go after in terms of wanting to understand a little bit more about what makes them tick and what they're doing. Yeah, I think there's more of this needed. Absolutely.
No, superb. Lovely to hear. Thank you. And it's been great to spend time with you. So we will see you soon. Thank you.
Good.